So this trip was, kind of a big ordeal because we had to fly into Buffalo, then drive all the way up to St. Catharines across the border. And, it was late at night, I'm tired. So I'm driving, I'm waiting in line to cross the border. I finally get to the crossing and the guy's like, "Why are you in Canada?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here to see this game." He's like, "Too Human?" I was like, "Yeah." He knew what Too Human was. He knew it was being made in Canada. I was like, "That's kind of weird." Then later that night, I'm in a cab. And cab driver's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here to see a game." He's like, "Too Human?" He's like, "Yeah, that Dennis Dyack." He knew Dennis Dyack's name. He's like, "I hear he's a real outspoken guy." I was like, weird. So, Silicon Knights is kind of a big deal up there.
It is.
And, they become kind of a big deal in the community at large just because Dennis is kind of an outspoken guy. The cabbie was, right?
Yeah.
And everyone at Microsoft and Silicon Knights wants to get me net nanny so I don't post on the boards anymore.
Almost 2 years ago, you and I went up to St. Catharines to see this game.
Right.
And we played what was the same section that we played 2 years later. And to see how far it's come and to see all the things they promised that seemed like pie-in-the-sky dreams actually be in the game now.
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of people have complaints with this game, but everything Silicon Knights has promised is in there exactly as they promised.
But then again, the gameplay itself, people kind of get the wrong idea about this game. It isn't like Devil May Cry.
But I think people don't actually think that, and they're just trying to mislead you by saying that is the big misconception.
If people think Too Human is an action game with some RPG elements, they're absolutely wrong. It is a complete fusion, a true fusion of RPG and action. And if you look at something like Phantasy Star Online, it's really essentially turn-based combat. Or World of Warcraft, it's turn-based combat. And then if you look at God of War, you can power up certain skills, but there's no skill trees, there's no classes, there's no loot gathering, there's no customization of your components, and there's no getting to level 50 and playing the game over again to getting to a higher level. None of that exists. So you've got this really unique fusion that I think really makes Too Human stand out.
To me, this is like the ultimate outgrowth of like the Diablo and PSO, like I'm hacking my way through a dungeon genre. And that is what it is. For the first 20 minutes I was playing this demo, I was just doing simple attacks. Like you can hold down the one stick and it like auto locks you on the next enemy and starts attacking him, or you can start like jabbing on it to do combos. Or what I wasn't doing was using like the war cries or the ruiners or like some of the more the deeper combos that are totally optional that actually change the gameplay more. Yeah, there's a layer to the gameplay that is there for people who want to explore like more depth. And if you don't want to do that, if you just want to kind of like barrel through the enemies, you can do that too, like Diablo.
It's kind of funny when you listen to the way they describe the combat as relaxing, which I think sums it up pretty well. Like, it's not an aggressive game. You're not going to go in there and get like really pissed off at each enemy.
When you have a hunting and gathering game that's got deep RPG elements like we're showing today, the really important part of that is that you balance it out right so the players have fun when they go from level 10 to level 20 to level 30 to level 40, and the characters has to change, and the classes play completely, absolutely differently depending on the weapons. And there's lasers, there's plasma cannons, there's pistols, there's just so many different variants and different classes of weapons.
You get so many items. I was getting swords and axes and different guns and rifles and maces and 20 different types of armor, and when you go in and like outfit your character, everything changes. You physically see on your character, you see him changing, and like your moves change. Like with the different weapons, the actual gameplay does feel different.
There's no actual like changing his face around and that kind of.
No. Baldur's face is Baldur's face, and we realize a lot of people like to customize it, change their sex and stuff. It doesn't work for Baldur. Baldur's a male. And I guess it could kind of work, but it would be a little different. It'd be certainly a radical interpretation of the mythology. We're already there, so maybe it wouldn't be that big of a jump, but we've really concentrated on, I guess, changes that make sense and are important. So if you get a cybernetic upgrade, or you change your armor, or you change your sword, you change your weapon, you really see that.
The very first time I played through like 20 minutes or so without even realizing that I could switch weapons. And then like right at the end of the demo, I switched weapons, and it just like felt like a whole different game.
So if you're the champion and you take a sword, your slide distance and your movement speed and your air combat is optimal. So you'll be doing a lot of dashes, and you'll be clearing the field a lot more quickly. Whereas with the defender, he's a lot sturdier. It takes a lot more aggro for the party, and he's basically your tank. and he won't get knocked down by missiles and stuff, where other classes will if they get hit by missiles. Getting all that stuff balanced is now the important part, and it's coming fairly well. We're really happy, and that's the stage we're at. We're just balancing and tweaking and getting things, finalized.
Obviously we're kind of worried the main story may be a little short, at least for the first game.
Well, they even said, like, when you go back and play levels again with your friends, like in co-op, the setups are different, the enemies you face may be different, so it's not the same experience every time you play these levels.
Because the better not be when you're playing with 4 people.
Well, and much like PSO, there really are only 4 levels here. There's like 4 main worlds, and then there's like the central hub town, which has like shops and places to explore, and then there's those hyperspace, what do they call them? The cyberspace levels, which there's no combat in them per se, it's just puzzle solving.
Yeah, it's puzzles and hunting for like extra stuff.
Well, and Dennis Dyack, he's taken a lot of flack for things he said about moving narrative forward and how he's approaching the story in Too Human. And so we finally got to see how that works in the game, and I gotta say, I was impressed by the way that the flashbacks are integrated into the story. All to the main character, he remembers, oh yeah, like he goes back and like sets everything up, and you play through those memories.
Kind of. You walk through them.
Yeah. But like, that's how this storyline is revealed to you, and it's interesting, and it introduces the world while not overwhelming you to like the fantasy mythology.
You have to buy into like, okay, I'm gonna like the story, because if you don't, you're just gonna be pissed off at how kind of much it throws at you, I think.
But yeah, I think it works. I think it's not cheesy, it doesn't seem forced. And the cutscenes, the real-time cutscenes look really good up close. Like the character models when they zoom in on the heads, I thought looked almost as good as Heavenly Sword, and definitely as good as Mass Effect. Could you tell it like had it changed since we saw it when it was on Unreal Engine versus now when it's on all proprietary tech?
I really couldn't. Like, it doesn't look that much different. It's basically what I imagined it would look like when it was done. And, pretty much the same thing, but just lots more of it. And obviously there are things that people still don't like about the game in the new videos. The most obvious being animations. Right. Which really, I think they're fine for my taste, but it's just gonna come down to what you think of it.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that because this game has been delayed as long as it has, that Too Human 2 is a lot further along than everybody thinks.
It should be, because they were working on it when we were up there 2 years ago.
Dennis even said to me that, like, while we were there filming at the studio, the name for Too Human 2 was like in plain view while we were playing the game. So maybe if you review the tapes, we can figure out the name of Too Human 2.
Do you still envision all those games on Xbox 360, like this generation?
Yes, we're gonna try. And there certainly will come faster than the first one for sure. Too Human will really come together in a way once the first one's done, and it's really self-contained as a story. So the theme of the first game is discovery, the theme of the second game is revenge, and the theme of the third game is enlightenment. And we have all those story arcs. We know exactly what's going to happen here, and all the mythologies, how it's all going to fall out. And we think people will really appreciate that. But we just have to make sure that this first game is perfect so people will want to play the second and third games.
They've confirmed a demo like 100%. He says about 2 months before the game comes out. So,
and I think the demo will be a modified version of what we played.
Right. That's what they were hinting at.
Really, with Too Human, there's been so much talk about it, and I think it's been so misunderstood that we have to do the demo right.
So is the demo going to be single player, or are you going to go multiplayer online? I know there was some back and forth on that.
We'll be talking about that later in the future, but I think I can give a hint, I guess. We'd want people to explore the game fully as much as possible.
People have the wrong idea about the game. When they finally get their hands on it, they'll see what it really is. Like, I'm excited about this game. I think it's something I like. It's a genre I like, and it seems engaging and addictive. And it's slightly mundane, but in the same way that PSO and Diablo are, and that becomes something way more fun when you're doing it with your friends.
In some ways, we're petrified because we look at the reactions that we're getting and the misconceptions, and we really want people to understand it for what it is. I got to tell you, this press event's probably the most nervous thing we've done in a long, long time. It's been 18 months since we showed the game. That wasn't because we were super confident that everything was going to just work out fine. We had to work really, really hard, do a lot of tough things, and really dig really deep and read the boards and listen to all the criticism and just say we're going to keep going because we believe in what we're doing. And I think it's paying off. I think it's a good game, and I hope gamers feel the same way.